Eccoci. Allora, iniziamo questa presentazione. Buonasera, grazie di essere qui.
So
Grazie.
I will translate. So
Sì.
good evening.
Ah,
I think English is okay for everybody, right? Okay.
Scusate, ma preferisco parlare in italiano. Vi racconto un po' in breve la storia di questa libreria. Non so se già eravate stati da Librebook.
So she will tell us the story of the bookstore. She doesn't know if you know it, but anyway, for the ones who don't know, she will tell us the
La
story.
libreria è stata fondata da Antonio Parodi e adesso siamo in tre a iniziare questo nuovo anno. Io sono Mariangela Miccione, lì ci sono Tobia Parodi e Francesco. Francesco, mi ricordi il tuo cognome che è difficilissimo? Annicchiato. E siamo molto contenti di iniziare oggi questa prima serie di eventi in una libreria che è stata concepita come uno spazio multiculturale, multilingue e prossimamente sarà anche un caffè letterario.
Perfect. I didn't know that either. So Antonio Parodi.
Antonio
Parodi was the founder of this bookstore, and then now the team has increased because beside Antonio there is Mariangela, there is Tobia, Francesco, and so it's a bigger team. And actually the bookstore will become soon a literary cafe.
Oui.
And she's very happy, actually, you said, to start this.
Io sono tra l'altro un editore che grazie all'incontro di Librebook sta aprendo anche una collana di testi tradotti. Io traduco dall'italiano al francese per promuovere la cultura italiana e di contro la cultura belga in italiano, quindi è un concept in cui la casa editrice si è ritrovata molto bene ed abbiamo iniziato da subito questa collaborazione.
So Mariangela, she is also a publisher, and she likes to translate from Italian to French and vice versa, I think, and to especially to spread the Italian culture in Belgium and so in a foreigner world, let's say.
Che è un po' la stessa cosa che ha iniziato a fare Antonio. Se voi vedete, la libreria è concepita per lingue, quindi avete lo scaffale in lingua italiana, spagnolo, tedesco, inglese e il francese. Queste sono le nostre lingue principali.
So yes, this work was started already by Antonio Parodi, and you can see around us all the languages of the books: Italian,
Spanish,
Spanish.
Deutsch,
I see the languages and I get confused.
Yeah,
the Portuguese and so on, French, of course. And so yes, the aim is really to spread the Italian culture and to have all these languages, which is a special thing. So.
E infatti anche gli eventi saranno in bilingue, come questo di Silvia che presentiamo oggi, la raccolta di poesia Sulla Cresta dell'onda, pubblicata da Daimon Edizioni, testo in bilingue, quindi italiano e inglese.
So they will have several presentations, bilingual presentations, like the one of today, which is in Italian and English by Daimon Edizioni, which is my publisher of this book.
Quindi grazie ancora di essere qui, io lascio la parola a loro. Silvia Polidori è l'autrice, scusate se pronuncio male i vostri nomi. Svetlana Spaić coordinerà e leggerà delle poesie in inglese e il musicista accompagnerà con dei testi sonori i testi di Silvia, che tra l'altro, come potrete vedere, sono anche accompagnate dalle immagini, quindi Silvia oltre alla dimensione poetica ha una dimensione di immagini e alcune di queste le potete vedere rappresentate in grande qui. Buona presentazione, passo la parola a Svetlana.
So she thanked all of us, and now I think Svetlana, who will moderate the event, will open it. I leave the floor to Svetlana.
Thank you very much, Silvia, and thank you everybody for coming here. I'm very pleased to be able to contribute to your discovering Silvia's universe. because for me this book is really a very beautiful universe that Silvia takes us in it with all her passions, and they are quite a few. And already physically, when I saw it, there is such a harmony of the visual parts and the poetry, and also the messages that Silvia puts in the preface and the instructions how to read them. Just abandon yourself to your senses, and you will discover this evening that it is about senses, all the senses, and then just be taken to this universe, which is our universe, that sometimes we don't see the entire beauty of. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Silvia. Just a very small introduction for those of you who do not know Silvia. Silvia Polidori is Italian, from the region of Abruzzo in Italy. She's a lawyer by profession. She works at the European Parliament, and she writes poetry. She is passionate, apart from poetry, for dancing, for philosophy, gastronomy, and enology, among other things, horses as well, but we will let her poetry tell us the story. And Stephen, I met him through Silvia, also only today. Here I will say a few words, and please add, Stephen, if it is not enough. But the gist: Stephen is a multifaceted musician. He has a very mysterious, for me at least, instruments here. I must say that personally I don't even know most of them what the name is, and I'm eager to discover them more. He is completely autodidact as a musician, but already quite praised. He released 2 albums, and by profession he finished communication science. He's from Antwerp and lives in Bruges.
Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you for this introduction, and thank you everybody for being here. So now maybe it's my turn just to introduce Svetlana, and maybe, to tell you how we met. We met at the occasion of an artistic event involving many artists, from dancers to singers and so on. Why? Because Svetlana is one of the founders of the Peace Performance Train. You will hear about, because I'm also part of it now, a group of artists, international, from all over the world, and we are starting to perform, in Brussels and in other places. So that's the way how I met Svetlana. But Svetlana has many points in common with me, because she's a professional translator, freelance interpreter. She's from Serbia. And so she has this side which is similar to mine, because I'm also being a lawyer, I have a technical profile and I work for the institutions. She also works for many institutions as a freelance interpreter. And she has also her artistic side, which is writing theater plays. And I read the first she wrote, and I can say she's very talented. So we have these points in common, and that's why also I asked her to moderate this event. So I'm particularly thankful. And also, of course, I'm thankful to Stephen, who also, I will tell you, maybe he doesn't know neither why I chose him, actually, because that was through another friend, another member of the Peace Performance Train, a guitarist, who might join this evening. I don't see him now. And he told me, I know at that time, actually, Stephen should have played the piano, because the place was a different one. And he told me, I have a friend, a colleague, who is an artist and who is the magician of piano. And then I had the look, and when I listened to his music, it was what I was looking for, and I think it was very suitable for my poems. You will see it. Then the further challenge came, because we don't have the piano today, so we had to adapt to other instruments. And Stephen was very brave. He said, no problem. So now you will discover these instruments, as I did when we tried together. So thanks a lot to you both, and thanks to all of you to be here, and thanks to the ones who are following us, because we are on web streaming, so there are people from all over the world following us, at least my friends I spread the message to. And so let's enjoy these events. And as Svetlana said, as now the author of this book, I would like that you really feel what we will do this evening. It's not only thinking about, abandon your logic and just feel with all your senses. Feel with all your senses. We already put some parfum. I don't know if you noticed that the place is quite big, but there is some parfum. So the smell is already there, and then you will enjoy the rest.
Yes. The smell is there, the sight is there. All of these photos that you see as posters are photos that Silvia made, and all of these that are in front are accompanying her poetry. Here we will have also the music accompanying her poetry. The book is bilingual, so it is a bilingual poetry and photography book, but it reaches out more. It reaches out to gastronomy as well, even to chocolates, but we will say more about it later. And Silvia, you asked me, you and Stephen asked me to kindly invite the audience to do something maybe a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, we propose that we will read 2 poems now with the music, and that will be one whole part, and then we will stop for some comments and questions if you have, of course. Then we will read another set of poems, so keep just enjoying these poems. We won't talk during this. So the first 2, shall we start?
And our artists very humbly want to invite the audience to refrain from applauding during the performance, to just see it as a performance itself. And of course we will have dialogue, comments, where Silvia will answer, well, first of all, my questions, I hope on behalf of the audience, but feel free to ask your questions as well when we come to that point.
I will read the title first, and then so that the ones who have the book can follow, or otherwise you will have the opportunity later. Scrivere poesie. Scrivere poesie è un esercizio di vita, ginnastica dell'anima che si riunisce al corpo per fare festa con lui della bellezza dell'infinito possibile. Oggetti, persone e natura sono occasionali strumenti di ispirazione, gioco per l'esercizio della mente. Il significato è più profondo e serio. Si tratta di vedere l'invisibile significato per la nostra anima e farlo volare, danzare e cantare in una melodia perfetta. Si parla di una realtà invisibile ma presente. La si rende concreta come noi, che possiamo così percepirla con i nostri sensi e goderne col corpo. Quando l'anima parla, si può ascoltarla e scriverla in 1000 modi, dipingerla con 1000 colori, cantarla e suonarla in musica. Così diciamo che c'è, è presente, tanto concreta da poterla vedere nel volo di un gabbiano, nel galoppo di un cavallo o nel sorriso di un bambino. Attraverso le parole di una poesia, la realtà invisibile della nostra anima si fa concreta e vera. Ci conforta nei momenti di tristezza e ci incoraggia in quelli dell'azione. Scrivere poesie è rappresentare il miracolo della nostra esistenza, perenne, forte e vera nella realtà dei sensi, strumento di gioco e percezione.
Writing poetry. Writing poetry is an exercise of life, gymnastics of the soul that meets the body, to celebrate with it the beauty of infinite possibility. Objects, people, and nature are random tools of inspiration, game for the exercise of the mind. The meaning is deeper and serious. It is about seeing the invisible meaning for our soul and making it fly, dance, and sing in a perfect melody. It talks of an invisible but present reality. It is made corporeal, like us, so that we can perceive it with our senses and enjoy it with our body. When the soul speaks, it can be listened to and written down in 1,000 ways, painted with 1,000 colors, sung and played in music. So we say that it is there, it is present, so substantial that it can be seen in the flight of a seagull, in the gallop of a horse, or in the smile of a child. Through the words of a poem, the invisible reality of our soul becomes concrete and true. It comforts us in moments of sadness, encourages us in those of action. Writing poems is representing the miracle of our existence, perennial, strong, and true, in the reality of the senses, tools of game and perception.
La sorgente. Fresca, pura, la sorgente appare come un miracolo dalla terra calda, incinta di essa. Pulisce l'aria circostante, disseta le piante, gli animali e le persone. La sorgente porta felicità tutto intorno. Appare e scompare tra le foglie, giocando al gioco dell'esistenza. Il suo suono è sempre diverso e non ha fine. dà evidenza di vita e continuità. La sua trasparenza sorprende, accarezza le pietre mentre passa. La sorgente pulisce e purifica, servendo e preservando la natura. Profuma anche trasparenza, mentre il suo sapore è gusto di eternità.
The spring, fresh, pure. The spring appears as a miracle from the warm earth, pregnant of it. It cleans the air all around. It quenches the thirst of plants, animals, and people. The spring brings happiness around. It appears and disappears among the leaves, playing the game of existence. Its sound is never the same and never ending. It gives evidence of life and continuity. Its transparency surprises, caressing the stones while passing on. The spring cleans and purifies, serving and preserving the nature. It perfumes transparency too, while its flavor is flavor of eternity. Thank you for this, Silvia and Stephen.
Thank you.
And we can start our discussion. Writing poetry is the last poem here. It is in the part entitled Vision. There are 5 parts, if I'm not mistaken, in the book. Life, happiness, inspiration, friendship and love, and vision. This is the very last, well, I think it really reflects your vision and is key to understanding your poetry. So in the book, it's at the end that the audience gets the key, but here you decided to offer them the key from the very outset. Tell us about your poetry concept and your vision that you express here.
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity, because yes, I will maybe really start from a very concrete description on what is for me writing poetry, and that's what I described in this poem. Really the technical, let's say, how it works really. In fact, it's a process which starts from the external reality. So I'm attracted by an image, which can be mostly, it can come from nature, a nice vision that I have. It's unexpected, I don't plan it. And then this emotion touches really through the senses, touches me, and makes my soul, let's say, moving. So I feel something, and then how can I describe what I feel? I can describe it again, going outside and using again the elements of nature, which are the ones I prefer, to describe it again. So to describe what I feel, and that's how the poem comes out. So it's really a process aller-retour, on dirait en français. So in one direction and then goes back. So from the outside to the inside, and then it goes back to the outside in order to express what I feel, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible to express something abstract. But as I say in my poem, it's abstract, but it's very concrete, because we are body and soul, we are material, but we are mostly spiritual. So yeah, and that's how the senses are also very linked to the soul, to the feeling and the sensations. Mm-hmm. And maybe
well, for me, I would also like to know, because every poem is accompanied by photography, and as a reader, I was curious what comes first. Do you start from all these photos were taken by you? Do you start from the photography and then start describing the way it moved you, or is it more abstract, more the ideas that you want to express, that you write down and then use the sensual world to express them, or else is it just capturing the moment and then going through the photography? Or maybe it's not always the same, but for me, for example, and it is particularly the case already with this front page, these photos that you make, for me, they look very much like Japanese prints, I must say, and it's for me it reminds me of Hokusai's famous wave. And your poems, I told you that already, for me are reminding me of haiku poetry, although the haiku form is not there, but capturing the moment, describing perfectly the moment and the scene and the beauty of a scene, and then having another much more philosophical layer are there. So what can you tell me about
Well, in terms of chronology, so if I take the photo first or I write the poem first, I would say that, of course, since it's two concrete different actions, they should be separate, but in fact they are part of the same moment, because when I'm inspired by, as I said, by an image, then I need to write, and it comes, so it's one whole action. Now, at the beginning, maybe I wrote and then I took the photo, but now when I feel it, I take the photo immediately, because that photo catches really the moment. And that's also the meaning, I will go back, the meaning of the crest of the wave, the title of the book. But so it's one moment which is the photo I take. It's that image which then gives the inspiration to the poem. So normally the images you see, the pictures are the moment of the inspiration of the poem. So it's one global action, I would say. And to answer to your comment about the crest of the wave, the meaning of the crest of the wave for me is catching the moment. What the Latins used to say, carpe diem. In any culture we have the same meaning, that if we succeed also to live the moment, so we live the moment, that's living, that's real life, because it means that, we are different, moment by moment, fraction of section by fraction of section. So if we live intensively those fractions of sectors, like the crest of the wave, which is 1 second, and you never have a crest of the wave similar to another. They are all different. If you stay in front of the sea and look, they are all different and all beautiful. And that's our life. In fact, it's different moment by moment. That's, at least for me, a bit an effort also to do that, because in our daily life, we have the routine. So we have the same kind of actions that we do, habitudinary, and we almost forget that it's not like this. In fact, life is continuously moving and continuously beautiful, because it's fresh, it's new, like a crest of the wave. And that's how I was inspired to choose this title, and those waves gave me the right inspiration for that.
Thank you. The other poem that we heard in this part is one of my favorites. It's called The Spring, and I really love it because it has these two sides. It can be taken as a beautiful, I have an impression I'm really in front of a spring, and then there is so much depth reminding us the spring appears as a miracle from the warm earth pregnant of it. I love that image because it reminds us of life that is being brought through the water, and the fact that without the water there is no life. It is in the part of the book called Happiness, but life is also happiness. And speaking about life and happiness, I noticed in these two poems, but also throughout the book in other places, you're mentioning the game of existence, playing the game of existence. I would like you to tell us more about that concept, if you agree.
Yeah, okay. So yes, in fact, in this poem, I a bit celebrate life. In which sense? So life is like a surprise. It's like a miracle, like a source, a spring, because that comes from the earth, water coming from the earth. So it's something special, and what you mentioned, the playing the game of life. Then, so this is life, but then, and it's also the life we have inside. So the soul, let's say. But then we also exist with our senses, with our in a very material world. And playing the game of life, for me, is trying to be alive in this existence. So to be alive in this existence. So to bring life to the existence. That's why we play a bit. It's like a game, because we need to succeed in being alive, but playing also the difficulties of life, the difficulties of every day, the material things, and we are in a moment where I see all of you with the mask, so this is not what nature, I mean, it's, so we try to be alive, and but we need also to play a game, so to be in this material world and try to succeed in a way. And there is also another concept at the end of the poem, which is also a positive thing, that the spring never ends, because the water will always continue to come out. So there is this positive side that there is always hope, that the spring always comes out. So this brings really life to the existence. Voilà. I might also maybe just touch the topic of nature, because sometimes today we speak about nature, and many of us here, I know, are involved also in policies related to nature, environment, and so on. And my vision of nature, which I really like, is that actually to remind to myself always that we are part of the nature. So the human being is part of the nature. Sometimes we talk about nature like let's preserve the particular species of animals or plants and so on, but we are nature, and so we are part of it, and so we need also to take care of us as human beings, and I like it. So I wanted to also to highlight this aspect in this poem. But yes. I don't know if you also have questions or please, if you have any question or curiosity, or also on the artistic side, or this will be really a dialogue among us and sharing our emotions, not only our logic or ones.
If not, we will have 2 more rounds of questions and answers. So shall we continue now and keep the question? I already have several more questions, but we will see here. I will keep them for later, and feel free to ask your questions now or after the second part of the performance.
Okay, so let's go for it. Yeah. So now we have 3 poems, one after the other. Gabbiano. Gabbiano, interprete della vita, come sapiente strumento suoni una musica armonica e calda di fronte al sole, all'orizzonte. Il mare ti accompagna quando ti culli sulle sue onde, ti rispecchia quando allegro ti avvolgi nell'aria e non lo tocchi, ma lo senti amico e senza di lui ti sentiresti perso. Gabbiano, osservi l'orizzonte e saggio misuri i tuoi limiti, nella potenza della natura che ti dà la forza, la grazia e la libertà. Voli e godi nel cielo blu che ti assorbe nella bellezza. Gabbiano.
Seagull. Seagull, interpreter of life. Like a wise instrument, you play harmonious and warm music, facing the sun on the horizon. The sea accompanies you when you rock on its waves. It reflects you when you joyfully wrap yourself in the air and don't touch it, but you feel it as a friend without whom you would be lost. Seagull. You look at the horizon and wisely you measure your limits, immersed in the power of nature that gives you strength, grace, and freedom. Fly off and enjoy the blue sky that absorbs you in its beauty. Seagull.
Che cosa l'Europa? Che cosa l'Europa? Senza genio italiano, volontà francese, forza tedesca, vuoto contenitore legalmente perfetto, ma dove il suo spirito? Guarda l'Europa come tesoro umano, fertile campo che genera alberi alti, foreste riossigenanti per il mondo intero, terreno nutriente, dove valori umani di varie origini e culture stimolano la crescita, ispirano pace. Sole, brilla su questo campo e scaldalo con i tuoi raggi perché dia i suoi frutti. Lambiscilo, mare, danzando all'orizzonte.
What is Europe? What What is Europe without Italian genius, French will, German vigor? An empty box, perfectly organized by law, but without its own spirit. See Europe as a human treasure, a fertile field where tall trees grow, offering pure air for the whole world, nourishing land where human values of various origins and cultures stimulate growth and inspire peace. Sun, shine on this field and warm it with your rays, so that it delivers its fruits. See, touch it, dancing on the horizon.
Che dolcezza, l'arte di amare. Che cos'è amare? Grande tesoro per chi dà e per chi riceve. Prezioso dono di sapere, vedere l'altro dove egli è e lì ammirarlo, supportarlo, aiutarlo a crescere. Amare è come assaporare un frutto che sa di vita, perché è esso stesso espressione della vita. Nessuna nota aggiunta, soltanto accompagnarlo con gli abbinamenti giusti, giochi dell'esistenza, e poi immergersi nel gusto senza tradirsi. Amare è un'arte, la più difficile e la più preziosa.
How sweet, the art of loving. What is love? Great treasure for those who give and for those who receive. Precious gift of knowledge. See the other where he is and admire, support, help him grow there. Loving is like tasting a fruit, which tastes of life, because it is itself an expression of life. No added notes, just accompany it with the right garnishes, gains of existence. And then immerse yourself in taste without betraying yourself. Loving is an art, the most difficult and the most precious one. Thank you. Before I start with my questions, do you have any questions now? Okay. Yes, Nicoletta.
Yes. Hello. First of all, I don't know. It's better that I speak English because yes. So thank you, Svetlana, your friend. You invited me to this event. I'm very happy, and I wanted just. I think that I'm not the only one, but I feel in your poetry, and in general in your mood, in your energy, a deep and strong presence of orient. Something linked to the strong sense you give to nature, and also the choice you did with music, sounds, this kind of instruments is really, I don't know, I feel like you're on a parallel planet in this moment, because really coming here, so it was like lightness and special light. So I was curious to know if I'm right, if there is something, there is any element that is present in your kind of life philosophy. Thank you.
It was also one of the questions that I was going to ask, because for me there is a lot of Zen Buddhist philosophy in Silvia's writing. So, rightly or wrongly, I had the same impression. Silvia.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is nothing religious in that. It's just the feeling that, as I said before, we are body and soul. So we have a lot inside that lives in us, and we always need to remember that, because when we are taken by the routine of life, we forget that we need to be alive, as I said before. You mentioned the combination with music. Actually, poetry, which comes from the ancient Greek poiesis, which means creating, doing, making, is a particular form of, as we know, of literature, where in addition to the writing, to the writing, there is a certain matrix, and this makes poetry very close to music, and this makes poetry a very powerful mean of communication, more than in general, prose. So it's more powerful. And I think personally that it's powerful also inside. So that's why the choice of accompanying it with the music, with the real music, and also, as I like to say, my poetry is involving all senses. So there is a special word to say that I learned actually. I will tell you why after. It's synesthetics, which also comes from ancient Greek. Syn means together, and aesthetics is feeling, so feeling together, meaning that when we have the stimuli of one sense, then other senses also react. And that's a special thing, but it's true. It's like when we have a parfum of a good food, then we already taste in our mouth. And it's the same with the poetry, in my view. We can describe something, and then immediately we hear a certain music, we taste a certain flavor. So that's the way. So it's a global feeling which involves first our senses, but then our soul reacts. So it's increasing and increasing. The final aim for me in poetry is feeling better in the end. So feeling something that makes us better after having read the poem than we were before. It's like when you eat a good meal, or when after a good action you feel better, you feel a change in yourself, because we are always changing, like the crest of the wave, but we can change in better, and that's what we should try to do. So through the right actions, through the right living the right moments, tasting a good poem, or hearing, or seeing, or touching, we can then be better. So that's how I see it.
Yes.
And in this way, actually, I also link my style of poetry to the ancient conception of poetry and of art, because artists in the ancient, I'm really talking about the ancient Greece, for example, art was a technical capacity of someone who was able, if he was a poet, to write a poem, if he was a painter, to to paint in the proper way, but he was right, it was a technician, not more. While today, if we think about an artwork, for example, something beautiful, we think about art. At that time, it was not necessarily like this. But on the other side, the beauty, so the aesthetics, was in any aspect of life. So every aspect of life was seen as done properly. And then in art, of course, the technician of that sector of art could produce something which was really the expression of that beauty, but in a high way, in a certain area, let's say. And welcome to the ones who joined in the meantime.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I would also apologise to Silvia because I have to actually leave now, but I just want to point out that one thing that struck me when I helped you with the English version, that the translation from Italian to English was actually really quite natural, because it's your poetry, your words are very direct and very concrete, and that meant that you can translate this into English, and I suspect into other languages, very authentically. And that's something that I think I thought I'd mention as one of the strengths of what you've produced. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
Thank you very much. But before going, actually, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but I would have mentioned it before the end. I need to thank Daimon Nueten a lot, because he's a colleague from the European Parliamentary Research Service, and mostly he reviewed all the poems that I wrote, partially in Italian and partially in English, actually. So he did both work. We did it together. He reviewed all of them to check if they were, if the translation was good. So thank you again, Emon. And he wrote a very nice preface also to the book. You will read it. Also very short and very direct and really delicious, I would say, in order to be synesthetic. I think your preface is really delicious, like this photo. And so a big thank. And I'm happy that you say this, because I think that, when I write, it comes to me very spontaneous. So it's very spontaneous. But then I realize when I read my poem that it's quite deep, and it comes spontaneous to be direct. So I'm very happy that you say this. Thank you again for the work you have done also with me. So thank you, and thank you for having been here. Any other question before we continue? Maybe we can.
Maybe later. Yes. So we had three poems here. The first one is Seagull, in the part of the book entitled Inspiration, and it is like all the others. It is turned to nature. And for me, I watched all the presentations. This is the 9th presentation of Silvia's book so far, but the first one en présentiel, so we are very lucky and happy. And someone asked you about the absence of writing in the first name, singular. You never say I, you just observe and describe. But for me, and I remember your answer, but for me, it's almost like nature speaks through you, and you remind us, like what you mentioned before about feeling better when you write and when you read poetry. There is a healing strength in your poetry, which is also the healing strength of nature, first of all, and then also of all forms of sensual pleasures, but again in a deep, almost Buddhist sense of the word, like living in the present time, and not only Epicurean, but also Epicurean. So tell us about Seagull.
Yeah. Well, this poem is a bit a celebration of an animal. I have many. I use a lot of metaphor, of course, in my poems. So, for example, in this poem, the seagull is a bit the example of a perfect living with the nature. So living really in harmony with it. The seagull is an animal free, but which follows the rhythm of the sea, of the wind, of the sun, the horizon. So it's really immersed in this rhythm of nature, and this gives him power, because when you follow that rhythm, because then you are also powerful, and that's again, we are part of nature. So if we think and try to feel ourselves as creatures of life and of nature, then we recover also that really energetic part, which is like a spring which never ends, and we can feel it. I think we can share this sensation. I don't know if you. Sometimes I feel it when I also try to focus on it when I'm on a walk in a forest, or I try really to immerse myself in that feelings, in that sensation, and after that you recover your real energy, because okay, there is the energy of I don't know, of a drink or an energy of it, but these are all superficial things. Sold as energies, but our energy is really there, and it's our real identity. And this is another concept which is very present in this poem. Each of us has its own unique identity. Clonation of the soul will never be possible. The physical clonation, yes, but the soul will never. So there are never two individuals identical or similar. We are all different, and each of us is unique. And so the nature provides us with all the energies as unique creatures in the world, and this is wonderful. So if we recover that, as the seagull does, and that's why I use the seagull, but to make us feel as he feels, then we are free and we are powerful. Of course, we need to respect the laws of nature. The seagull is very wise. At a certain moment, I say that he's very, very wise, but he follows the sun, and he is free in that context. That's what I wanted to say in this poem.
Thank you. Beautiful. We could talk a lot about this poem, but we have others to discuss about. The next one is What is Europe? And it's in the part entitled Vision. So I think no explanation is needed about the link between vision and this title. I was curious when I read it. I mean, you work for the European Parliament, as you said. I also work as interpreter for the EU institutions. We are here in Brussels. I think you counted 11 nationalities among 20 people coming here this evening, and that is the beauty of Europe, and we are very aware of it in Brussels. My question is what is the link between your work in the European Parliament and this poem? And of course, it's a beautiful celebration of European values and the idea of it. But is it also a defense? I mean, what made you write it? Is it the threat under which European values seem to find themselves relatively often in the last years and days? But like everything else, we see optimism, and it's also part of this healing aspect of your poetry.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yes, and I think it's not by chance that I am a lawyer, so I know what the organization by law means, and and the difference when you put also a spirit in that. So when you put your creativity, so it's like a box, as I say, but to fill in with the values. And I think the main value of Europe is here, this evening among us. It's our differences. But differences, when I think about differences in cultures, I always refer to the human being. So we are different, we are individually different, but then there are also cultures which are like, it's like when you play an instrument, a melody alone with one instrument, and when you put several instruments playing the same melody together, it becomes an orchestra. Why not? It's more rich. It's different. Each instrument has a different sound, but the melody is the same. So if you think about the melody like the European project, because playing a melody is a project, let's do something concrete, and then you put together different instruments with their own differences and peculiarities, that gives the soul to the notes which are written on a pentagram, and which is very technical, like a law, a piece of law. So that's how I see it. I could compare with the recipe, since I love gastronomy. It's the same. You can have a plate and you can have a dish with some ingredients, but if you put other ingredients and they match among themselves, why not? The dish then is more delicious. So it's simpler than that, yeah. I think.
Which is a very good introduction to the third poem that we heard, How Sweet, The Art of Loving. And it is illustrated by what you see here. It is a dessert. It is in the part called Friendship and Love. And I already told you that I was really glad that you put the two of them together, and here it is. The poem is about this inner happiness that love brings, but love of friends or lovers. And actually, I realized, I always say, and we discussed about it, that for me, friendship is love. And actually, I realized when reading this title of this part that in Italian, when you pronounce it, it means the same. Amore e amicizia. It's both friendship and love, and friendship is love. So for me, this is like we have to call this in Italian. There is. I have two questions here. You chose the desserts. You speak about taste, about gastronomical side, and I understand it as the accentuation of sensuality in the love that you describe. But when we discussed about this very illustration, I realized that there's more to it. So I would like you to tell us about the poem and then about the illustration and why you chose it.
Yeah, so it's right what you said. Indeed, you will see I classified the poems. It was also just a game also I played with that. I said, okay, let me gather them by theme, and so inspiration, vision, and when I arrived to love, because I had some on friendship and some on love, and I said, well, in the end it's one topic altogether, just because you said it. I think friendship is loving, and anyway you can see it from what I say in the poem. It's a bit, seeing in the other person a value in his identity, and then just admire that and enjoy that and help this identity to grow. So you don't need to do anything. I mean, and this is actually I think a very, very important, a deep respect of the identity of another person, because we are different. And I think in friendship, as in love, you need to accept the other as he or she is. what you can do, you can give value to that, and so you can make this person grow in his own identity. So help him grow in his own identity. Of course, to give suggestion, advice when you see that he's not following his own identity, and so the deep sense is that. And then about
the illustration.
About the illustration, actually, in this case, I made everything. I tried for the first time to make the gaufre, the waffles, and they came out a bit small, but they came out. And then I put the other ingredients. All are Belgian ingredients: the waffle, the strawberries, the chocolate. I didn't have the mint, so I put some basilicum, but okay. It was, for the aesthetics, it was okay. Nobody noticed that. But for the flavor, maybe mint would have been better. And then I took a photo, and then I wrote the poem. So it was a whole, synesthetic work, I would say. And I like to play with all kind also of arts, because for me, gastronomy is also an art. And I made also some experiments. You might see one here, we can show it. Mm-hmm. It's actually, here you can see, but before saying about the gastronomy, so I played with music, so the combination with music and other things also will come. But in this case, so it's a combination with the chocolate. And what you see here is a crest of the wave in chocolate. This is the youngest Belgian chocolatier, Oliver Van Nueten, who made it. And we combined chocolate with poetry. So here it's a sculpture, in fact, in chocolate. And so, yes, you can see it now in the window of this chocolaterie. And that has also a link with my definition of the poems, because I think that my poems, and in general I think poems, are like a box of praline, because you, when you want a chocolate, a praline, what do? So you take the box, you go in a calm corner where you are alone and you can rightly taste it, is isolated from others who can steal the praline. Then you open the box and you choose among the ones you like, or in that moment you prefer, a noir or a noisette, or and so on. And that's the sections of the poems you can choose, and then you pick one that you want at that moment. And like a poem, you taste it. You just taste it for yourself, and you feel it with all your senses. When you don't tell me that when you taste a chocolate, you feel it only in your mouth. I feel it in all my body, and I dream about eating the whole box. But one is enough for that moment, because you want just to digest it with all your senses, and then you feel better. So,
senses, indeed, I think you, through this presentation, you have awakened the senses that you write about, and we said that there's sight, there is hearing, there is the sense of touch, and for me, the fact that we are finally having a presentation which is not on Zoom, but which is in presence, does relate to our sense of touch. Even we can touch each other, we can touch the book and everything. Then the smell, for me, that there is already a device that spreads a very pleasant, refreshing smell here. And there are flowers that we can smell. So all these are here. The taste you have described, that you made us, have water come into our mouth. But that is difficult to bring to life in a literary presentation, isn't it?
And then now I will surprise you. And you have the privilege, actually, to taste something nobody has tasted before, which are chocolate waves. But really chocolate waves with the flavor of the sea inside. So for you, you will taste this.
So all
This
the
is the
senses-
result of
Can I take
the
first?
combination of. Oh yes.
Yes.
Thank you. You
Thank
can
you.
just use your napkin for
Yeah.
the to
Thank
be
you.
more clean. And this is also the result with the collaboration of this chocolatier.
Wow.
So we inspired each other. And please, you can serve this. And so I would just describe you the study we did and then the outcome. First of all, these are pralines, one different from another. They are really made by hand, but one by one. But in general, the inspiration was to have the shape of a crest of the wave, then to have the sun, where the wave starts, the blue of the sea, and then the foam, the final foam of the crest. And this is what you see with your eyes. Then, of course, you can touch it, but touch it with the napkin for the time being. And then I suggest that you smell it, but smell it from the bottom, because on the top there is this painting that you can eat, of course, but better on the bottom. And then, when you taste them, you will normally taste the flavor of the sea, because inside there is a ganache, which is the inner part of the praline, the Belgian praline, which is made with sea wheats. I saw them, I smelt them before they were in the praline, so I can ensure they are there. I went to the chocolaterie, I made sure that they were there, so I saw the whole, it was incredible. And then, yeah, that's it. So enjoy it, while if there are, well, we can keep some questions still for the end, but otherwise I suggest that while you enjoy the praline, we might continue with the rest.
Exactly. And the second part of the evening will be the parts, it starts with this tasting experience, and it is the part where we can switch off our minds and just enjoy the performance of the dialogue of music and poetry with the prop of taste, smell, touch, and sight.
Thank you. Cavalli selvaggi. Eccoli, cavalcare liberi nella prateria, gioiosi di luce, affamati di vita. Questi cavalli selvaggi sono lo spirito dell'esistenza, fremito di vitalità e bellezza. Li vedo giocare, amarsi e godere del sole che rende i loro colori accesi e brillanti. Portano gioia, serenità e amore, i cavalli selvaggi della prateria.
Wild horses, here they are, riding free on the prairie, joyful of light, hungry of life. These wild horses are the spirit of existence, a thrill of vitality and beauty. I see them playing, loving each other, and enjoying the sun that makes their colors bright and shining. They bring joy, serenity, and love, the wild prairie horses.
è il mare che parla. Quando guardo il mare, è lui che parla. Mi guida lontano, ma mai fuori da me. Mi culla tranquillo, è fonte inesauribile di energie e quando mi affido a lui sono io stessa espressione di quella energia. Ti amo, mare senza confini, moto immenso e calmo. Tu sei, per me, l'unica fonte di vita.
The sea is talking. When I look at the sea, it is the sea who speaks. It drives me far away, but never out of myself. It cradles me quietly. It is an inexhaustible source of energy. And when I entrust myself to it, I am myself an expression of that energy. I love you, boundless sea, immense and calm motion. For me, you are the only source of life.
La musica dell'anima. La musica dell'anima è una melodia unica, modulata al ritmo della propria bellezza interiore. Ondeggia, freme, si impenna e poi torna dolce al fremito di vita. Come il mare non è mai uguale, ma in continuo movimento, presente e infinita. La musica dell'anima ha note intense e vere. Un La, un Sol, un Re bemolle, si susseguono in melodia unica, la intonano, docili strumenti, palpito di esistenza.
Soul music. Music of the soul is a unique melody, modulated to the rhythm of one's inner beauty. It sways, shudders, rears up, and then returns, sweet, to the thrill of life. Like the sea, it is never the same, but in constant motion, present and infinite. The music of the soul has intense and true notes. A la, a sol, a flat re follow each other in a single melody. They intone it, docile tools, throb of existence.
La creazione del mare. Il mare ricama merletti con l'onda, cresce, si avvolge e poi esplode in spumosa energia. Rallegra lo sguardo che mai stanco la segue, per non perdere niente di quello spettacolo unico. In ogni momento che segue quella corrente, quel vento, quella creazione eterna. È l'attimo e l'eterno insieme, come se l'uno non possa esistere senza l'altro. Paradosso possibile. E noi? Cosa siamo in rapporto a questo spettacolo, a questa creazione? Siamo noi stessi parte di essa e solo per questo possiamo percepirla con i nostri sensi e con la nostra anima. Essi stessi, attimo ed eterno. Paradosso possibile.
The creation of the sea. The sea embroiders laces with the wave. It grows, wraps itself, and then explodes in frothy energy. It rejoices our gaze, which untiringly follows it, so as not to miss anything of that unique show, which follows in every moment that current, that wind, that eternal creation. It is both instant and eternal, as if one cannot exist without the other, a possible paradox. And we? What are we in relation to this show, to this creation? We are ourselves, part of it, which is why we can perceive it with our senses and with our soul, themselves instant and eternal, a possible paradox. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Now we will have an opportunity. You have an opportunity if you want to get the book. Silvia is here for the dedication. I will also ask you to briefly say where else your book can be found and what other presentations are you planning. But before that, I would like just briefly to invite Stephen to tell us a few words about these instruments, starting with their names. And what was it? It was so surprising and beautiful, and it sounds like we heard them, but most of them I've never seen or heard before.
Sure. Yeah. This is this flute comes from Hawaii, and this is a bamboo sax. So this is I love to when I travel. I just love to take it in my jacket. And when I went to Egypt, then in the temples, it was like nobody's and they're playing. It's such a when you close your eyes and you think it's like a saxophone or something. So when I first heard this, and especially the deep sound, it's so warm, and that's also what I sense in your poems. And so this is the bamboo sax. And I will not go over all the instruments, otherwise we are just but just the most. And this is the shruti box. I mean, this is 1 octave, and it's like an Indian harmonium. And you also have Indian harmoniums with keys on it, and the bottom ones are the white keys, and the top ones are the black keys. So you can make chords. And for me, this is a wonderful instrument to sing along, or just because you feel the frequency. And for me, this also represents an ocean, a wave. I mean, you start playing it, and then as it is, you are surfing with your voice on the sound of the shruti box, and they come in all sizes. But yeah, the bamboo, and there's also a thumb piano or a sansula, a big Persian drum. Yeah, so voila, it was a pleasure to play along with Silvia. And this is a dulcimer. I'm not an expert in the etymology or whatever about the instrument, but this is a dulcimer, and honestly, I'm not a superb player on the dulcimer. My thing is more the piano, which is not here, and my voice. But even I love simplicity, and even with just a couple well-placed notes, you can create a universe. It's in the same way as the beautiful simplicity of the poems. It's not like you have to study to be able to understand. You can study with feeling and with the heart.
Yeah.
But it's another way of study and in my experience. So, well, thank you.
Thank you.
You explained Hawaii, you explained India. Can you mention as well the other countries where they are from?
Oh, I think this they have the kalimba. The kalimba, I think, comes from Africa. I think, and the sansula is some kind of Western upgraded version of the kalimba or the thumb piano. But as I said, I'm not an expert in the history of the instrument itself. But this is also you can play with it. You can do a lot of things, and the dulcimer, I think this is some kind of folk instrument you find in different cultures, also in Western folk music, and sometimes they play it like this, very virtuosic, and some you can also play with and the rain stick is, I don't know especially where it comes from, to be honest.
It's from the Pacific.
From the Pacific, okay.
Not specific.
And this is a bansuri flute, more from the east. And the koshi, this is, I don't know where it comes from. It comes from the shop where I bought it. And the voice you heard, the throat singing, it's the Mongolian throat singing, but you have them also in Tibetan Buddhism, and you have different. And what I was doing was just more like a freewheeling, because you can do many different sorts of throat singing.
And the big thing behind you.
Yeah, this is if I remember it correctly, a Persian drum from Persia. I mean, and they have also some kind of how do you call it in English? Some small chains, and then they play. They are really playing virtuosic, and you can also do the, how is it called, the turning, the people who are constant.
The dervish.
Yeah, I think it's
dervish.
also, it's
Okay.
a very, and I love to play it because if I came closer to you, you just feel the vibrations.
And you are coming from where?
From Europe.
From Lier, nearby Antwerp. So, but sometimes people say that I have looks of many cultures in my face, but I think if we study our DNA, we all come from everywhere.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. So we
I
not
hope
only had a lot of European nationalities, but also instruments from all over the world, which makes it very special. I would like to thank really Steven, because it was a challenge, I think, for both of us to adapt, first of all, to each other, because we didn't know and we tried that. And then not having the piano to tailor. Really, we met several times, and we studied each poem with which instrument could have been best suited. And then with that instrument, how to play in music the poem. So I think, you judge the result, I don't know, but I think at least we succeeded in enjoying it and in doing it. And thank you, thank you. And also to Svetlana, who really merged everything, and also...
Silvia,
Yes.
I'm a little bit disappointed.
Why?
You want more pralines?
Because
You want this?
we all are flabbergasted by what we have seen and
Yeah.
heard. But nowadays, you have heard possibly of YouTube.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think it would have been incredibly productive, now it's finished, but for your next presentation,
Yeah.
if there would be a camera and a microphone, and Stephen, I hope, would be there as well, and to have this special atmosphere on YouTube. And possibly you have seen already YouTube. There's written on the bottom how many people have looked at it. Please, possibly you get wow,
Oh,
wow
thank you.
by the figures, and therefore next time I think you should do it.
Yeah, but actually I will surprise you because I didn't mention another fundamental member of our team, because this team has started from me, Steven, Svetlana, and now enlarged to people who offered their support in different way, also logistically and so on. And there is a young talented boy behind you who filmed the whole event, yes, which is actually live on Facebook. I don't know if it's still live on Facebook, but for the time, but we will have this on YouTube. So promised, I will probably open my channel, and so thanks to Matko as well.
But then you should mention as well that you made it.
Of course, of course, of course,
Now
of
3
course.
stars. Or
Yes.
4.
Yes. And since I'm now thanking people, I really would like to thank each of you, because among us we have officials from the institutions, and we have artists, actors, we have a bit of every writers, so I'm extremely happy for that. Gastronome, high level gastronome, representatives of gastronomy at world level. So I won't mention one by one, but really, and but I may mention maybe the people who are really related to this book, and Gonzalo here, who is very discreet, but actually when you see the asterisks on some of the poems, this means that they have been put in music since the beginning. And that was, we did it with Gonzalo, who is a colleague from the European Commission, but at that time, and it was 2019, even before I think Gonzalo, we made an experiment writing poems and then adapting the music, or on his music I wrote some poems. There are 3 poems like this, but I also would like to remind this and to thank Gonzalo for that. And then, okay, I would thank many people. Sarmite, who suggested this place as the place of the presentation, and thank, of course, this bookstore, Tobia, Mariangela, everybody who hosted us. And I hope, yes, I hope to repeat it. Why not? Maybe with the piano and with other combination, not only gastronomy, but we will invent. Don't worry, I'm full of ideas, so I will surprise you always, because moreover, for me it makes fun and changing, like the crest of the wave. I like to change and to experiment different things. So, and also any of you is welcome to propose, and I will take the challenge ahead, so we can do something together. Thank you again, everybody.